My name is Rachel. I'm 32, and life had always been an intricate balance of love, work, and family. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 8 years, and while our marriage wasn't perfect, I believed we had a strong partnership, or so I thought. Daniel had a 14-year-old son, Jack, from his previous marriage. When I met Jack, he was a shy, polite boy who slowly warmed up to me over time. I treated him like my own child, helping with his homework, attending his soccer games, and even creating his favorite meals on the weekends. Despite my efforts, there were moments when Jack would remind me I wasn't his real mom. I brushed it off, chalking it up to teenage angst. Things began to change when Daniel's sister, Clara, moved back to our city. Clara and I had always been cordial, but there was an undercurrent of tension. She was protective of Daniel and had never fully accepted me into the family. One evening, Clara came over for dinner. As we sat around the table, she brought up Jack. Jack's been telling me he feels uncomfortable here, Rachel, Clara said, her tone dripping with concern. I was taken aback. Uncomfortable? Jack, is that true? Jack hesitated, his eyes darting toward Clara. I don't know. Sometimes. Clara jumped in. See? Kids pick up on things. Rachel, maybe you're too strict with him. I felt blindsided. I had always been fair and loving toward Jack. This accusation felt unwarranted, but Daniel sat there silently, not defending me. A week later, Clara hosted a family gathering. I noticed the sideways glances and hushed whispers. Daniel's aunt approached me and said, Rachel, I hope you're not too hard on Jack. He's just a child. The pieces began to fall into place. Clara had been spreading rumors about me mistreating Jack. That night, I confronted Daniel. Why didn't you defend me when Clara accused me of making Jack uncomfortable? I asked. He sighed. Rachel, Jack's been acting distant lately. Maybe Clara has a point. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've done nothing but care for Jack as if he were my own. Why are you doubting me? Daniel didn't respond, and I felt the foundation of our marriage begin to crack. One morning, as I was preparing breakfast, I overheard Jack on the phone. She's so fake, he whispered. Clara said I should tell Dad how unhappy I am. Maybe they'll split up. I froze. The boy I had loved and cared for was plotting against me. Manipulated by Clara, the betrayal cut deep. Later that day, Daniel came home early. We need to talk, he said, his expression grave. About what? I asked, my heart pounding. Jack told me he doesn't feel safe here. Clara agrees. Maybe it's best if you take a break from the house for a while. I was speechless. You want me to leave my own home? Based on lies? Daniel avoided my gaze. It's not permanent. Just until things settle down. Packing my bags felt like a nightmare. As I closed the door behind me, I vowed this wouldn't be the end of my story. Sitting in my car, a small suitcase beside me, I stared at my phone. My mind raced between fury and heartbreak. My home had been taken from me, not by an external force, but by the people I trusted most. I checked into a modest motel across town. The room was quiet, but my thoughts were loud. Clara's influence over Daniel and Jack had turned my life upside down. I needed answers. The next morning, I called my best friend, Mia. She listened intently as I recounted everything that had happened. This is ridiculous, Rachel, Mia fumed. You've been nothing but good to that boy. Clara's jealousy has been simmering for years, and now she's using Jack to drive a wedge between you and Daniel. I feel so powerless, I admitted. Mia's voice grew firm. You're not powerless. You need to fight back. Start by gathering proof that you've done nothing wrong. Her words sparked something in me. I wasn't the villain Clara painted me to be. It was time to uncover the truth. Over the next few days, I began piecing together Clara's influence. I reached out to Jack's teachers, coaches, and even his friends' parents. Each conversation painted a similar picture. I was a caring stepmother who always put Jack's needs first. "I can't believe they're accusing you of mistreatment," one parent said. "Jack always speaks highly of you." But the most revealing moment came when I decided to visit Clara's neighbor, Mrs. Benson, a nosy but kind older woman. She had a habit of keeping tabs on everyone in the neighborhood. "Oh, Clara?" Mrs. Benson chuckled when I mentioned her name. "She's always meddling. I overheard her telling her friend about a plan to protect Jack from you. Sounded like nonsense to me." Clara's manipulation wasn't just a hunch, it was real. I decided to meet Jack after school. He seemed surprised to see me but agreed to talk. "Jack, I need to ask you something," I said gently. "Do you really feel unsafe with me? Or is someone telling you to say that?" Jack looked uncomfortable, his gaze shifting away. I don't know. Clara said you might be trying to replace my mom." My heart ached. "Jack, I would never try to replace your mom. I care about you because you're part of our family. Clara is wrong to put these ideas in your head." He didn't respond, but his silence spoke volumes. Clara's influence wasn't just about me, it was about creating doubt in Jack's mind. Armed with the evidence I had gathered, I decided to confront Daniel. I invited him to meet me at a coffee shop. "Rachel, what is this about?" he asked, his tone weary. I placed a stack of papers on the table, testimonies from teachers, neighbors, and even screenshots of Clara's social media posts subtly undermining me. "This is about the lies that have destroyed our home," I said firmly. Daniel hesitated as he flipped through the pages. "I didn't know," he began. "Because you didn't want to know," I interrupted. "You let Clara manipulate you and Jack, and you didn't even question it." The weight of my words seemed to hit him. "I'll talk to Clara," he said. "Talking isn't enough," I said, my voice breaking. "You need to decide where your loyalty lies, with the truth or with Clara's lies." The days following my confrontation with Daniel were nerve-wracking. I had laid everything bare, but his inaction spoke volumes. He avoided my calls, and Jack's texts grew sporadic. It felt like I was screaming into a void. But I wasn't ready to give up. Clara's lies couldn't go unchecked. If Daniel wouldn't stand up for me, I'd fight for myself. One afternoon, Mia called, her voice laced with urgency. "Rachel, you won't believe what I found," she said. "Clara's been bragging about her success to her friends. She thinks she's won." Mia sent me screenshots of Clara's messages in a private group chat. Her words were venomous. I told Daniel exactly what he needed to hear. "Rachel will be out for good soon. Jack finally sees her for who she is." I made sure of that. My blood boiled. Clara wasn't just meddling, she was orchestrating an all-out campaign to ruin me. I decided it was time to confront Clara directly. I drove to her house, my hands trembling with a mix of anger and determination. She opened the door, her expression smug. "Rachel," she said coolly, "what brings you here?" "Cut the act, Clara," I snapped. "I know what you've been doing. You've poisoned Jack against me and manipulated Daniel. And now, I have proof." Clara's smile faltered for a moment before she crossed her arms. "Proof? Of what?" "I'm just protecting my nephew from someone who clearly doesn't belong in his life." Her words stung, but I held my ground. "This isn't about Jack. This is about your jealousy and your inability to let go of control. You're hurting him more than you're helping." Clara's face turned red with anger. "Get off my property," she hissed. "You have no idea what you're talking about." But I did. And now, I had the evidence to back it up. After leaving Clara's house, I reached out to Jack's therapist, Dr. Harris. I've been hesitant to intervene, Dr. Harris admitted, but it's clear Jack is caught in the middle of a toxic situation. He's confused and being influenced by conflicting narratives. Dr. Harris agreed to facilitate a family session, including Clara. It was a long shot, but I hoped it would force her to face the damage she had caused. The session was tense from the start. Clara arrived with an air of superiority, while Daniel looked uncomfortable. Jack sat quietly, avoiding my gaze. Dr. Harris began gently. We're here to create a space for honesty and healing. Let's start by discussing Jack's feelings. Jack hesitated before speaking. I don't know what to think, he said. Clara says one thing, but I remember when Rachel helped me with my school project and took me to the park when I was sad. My heart swelled at his words, but Clara quickly cut in. Jack, don't forget how she's tried to replace your mother. Enough, Clara, I said, my voice firm. This isn't about replacing anyone. It's about creating a family where everyone feels safe and loved. Dr. Harris turned to Clara. Your influence on Jack is undeniable, but it's important to consider how your actions might be impacting him negatively. For the first time, Clara looked uncertain. The session ended with no clear resolution, but the cracks in Clara's facade were starting to show. Later that evening, Daniel called me. I've been blind, he admitted. Clara's been manipulating all of us. I should have stood up for you. I wanted to believe him, but trust wasn't something that could be rebuilt overnight. Actions speak louder than words. Daniel, I said, if you want to fix this, you need to show me, and Jack, that you're committed to the truth. The next day, Jack came to see me. I'm sorry, Rachel, he said, tears in his eyes. I didn't know what to believe, but I know you've always cared about me. I hugged him tightly. All I've ever wanted is for you to be happy and safe. As for Clara, her influence began to wane. Daniel set firm boundaries, and Jack started therapy on his own to process everything. Life didn't immediately return to normal after the family therapy session, but it felt like a fog was lifting. For the first time in months, I could see a path forward, not just for me, but for all of us. Clara's manipulations didn't go unnoticed after the session. Daniel started addressing her behavior directly, finally acknowledging how her meddling had hurt our family. He limited her visits with Jack and made it clear that her interference was no longer welcome. Jack needs stability, he told her firmly during a follow-up meeting facilitated by Dr. Harris. Your intentions might have been good, but your actions have caused nothing but harm. From now on, Rachel and I are making decisions for Jack, together. Clara was livid, but her protests fell on deaf ears. The evidence of her manipulations, coupled with Jack's growing awareness of the truth, left her with little room to argue. Jack and I slowly rebuilt our bond. It wasn't easy, trust takes time to restore, but we found joy in the small moments. Movie nights, trips to the park, and quiet conversations about his favorite books became the foundation of our renewed relationship. Daniel worked hard to make amends, too. He attended therapy sessions with Jack and me, where we discussed everything from his initial doubts to the importance of standing united as a family. I let fear cloud my judgment, Daniel admitted during one session, but I'm ready to do the work to rebuild what I've broken. Months later, our family looked different, but stronger. Clara no longer had the influence she once wielded, and Jack had flourished with the consistency and love he deserved. One sunny Saturday, as we sat in the backyard, Jack turned to me with a shy smile. Rachel, thank you for not giving up on me. I blinked back tears. I'll never give up on you, Jack. We're family, no matter what. Daniel reached for my hand. This is just the beginning for us, he said. And he was right. The road had been rough, but we had emerged on the other side, together.